My name is Dan Joffe. I am a criminal lawyer. In this video, I'm going to explain how it may be possible to get your DUI or impaired charges withdrawn. And I'm going to give you a real life example of how this may happen. Now, getting a DUI or impaired charge is incredibly scary. It can impact your ability to work and make money. It can impact your relationships and reputation. And I mean, bottom line, it can destroy your life. One of the most important questions that you should have is whether it's possible to get your DUI or impaired charges withdrawn. And the answer is maybe. With DUI or impaired charges, there are very specific, detailed rules that the police must follow. Now, these rules start from the very moment of your first interaction with the police and last all the way until the time you leave the police station. And that could be many, many, many hours later. And these rules, they're not optional. The police have to follow these rules. And if the police do not follow these rules, and even if there's a mistake on just one rule, then it may be possible to get your charges withdrawn, and even if you appear to be guilty. Now, these rules stem from a document called the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Now, you may have heard about this charter in the news or on social media or on TV. And because the charter is so important in the context of a DUI or impaired charge, let me take a few minutes to discuss the charter and how it can be used by your lawyer to get your DUI charges withdrawn. So first, what is the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms? The Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms sets out those rights and freedoms that Canadians believe are necessary in a free and democratic society. And the Charter is one part of the Canadian Constitution. Now, the Constitution is a set of laws containing the basic rules about how our country operates. Now, second, that leads to the question of, why does this matter? Why is this important? And the Charter is important because it protects basic rights and freedoms that are essential to keeping Canada a free and democratic society. Now, in the context of a criminal charge, such as a DUI or an impaired charge, this is incredibly important because the Charter ensures that the government or anyone acting on its behalf doesn't take away or interfere with your rights or freedoms unreasonably. And these aren't just words. These words have real power. These words have real meaning. The Charter is effectively a rule book by which everyone acting on behalf of the government, including the police and the Crown, which is the lawyer that may be prosecuting your case, these are the rules that they have to follow. These rules are not optional. And if these rules are not followed in the context of your DUI or impaired charge, then it's possible to get your charges withdrawn. Now, the Charter has 34 sections, and not every section has applicability to a DUI or impaired charge, but the ones that do have been interpreted by the courts since the early 1980s when the Charter was added to the Constitution. And there have been thousands of cases that have gone to court to interpret the meaning of the Charter. And these court rulings, effectively what they do is they actually flesh out in detail the rules that the police and the Crown have to follow as they conduct their case against you. Now, in theory, right, that sounds easy. Court makes a ruling, and the police and the Crown reads those cases, which are effectively the rules on how they got to do their job. But the reality is we're all human. We all make mistakes, including the police and the Crowns. And we find that police officers make even more mistakes on DUI and impaired charges because these charges are very technical in nature, and they can be really confusing. And that confusion can work to your advantage because if a mistake is made, that mistake, if it breaches your charter right, may result in your case getting thrown out and withdrawn. And if that happens, you walk away as if nothing has ever happened. Now, let me take an example of how we've used the Charter to get a DUI charge withdrawn for a client. Okay, now under Section 10 of the Charter, everyone has a right to a lawyer. Section 10 states that, quote, everyone has the right on arrest or detention to retain and instruct counsel without delay. Now, in this case, the police pulled over a suspect. Let's call him Stephen. And Stephen was pulled over because the police believed he was intoxicated. The police demanded that Stephen blow into a breathalyzer, and Stephen blew over the legal limit. Police arrested Steve and took him to the police station to be processed. Stephen said to the police that he wanted to speak with his lawyer, and he gave the lawyer's name and number to the police officer. Now, the police called the lawyer, but the lawyer wasn't there, so the police officer left a voicemail. The police then called duty counsel. Now, duty counsel, for those of you who don't know, are lawyers. They're paid for by Legal Aid in Ontario, and they're available 7/24 to help people who don't have proper legal representation. And the police did, in fact, get in touch with duty counsel and gave the phone to Stephen, who then spoke to duty counsel, a lawyer. So on the face of it, all seems okay because Stephen spoke with a lawyer. But the reality is the police made a big mistake. The police officer did not make a real effort to get in touch with the lawyer that Stephen wanted to speak with. Now, simply calling a lawyer that Stephen wanted and leaving a voicemail and then providing access to a different lawyer, in this case, duty counsel, that actually, in fact, breached Stephen's right to counsel of his own choosing. For the police to properly follow the rules under Section 10 of the Charter, what the police should have done is they should have asked Stephen whether he wanted the police to wait some more time and try contacting his lawyer again, or the police should have asked Stephen if he wanted them to get in touch with a different lawyer. So the way our legal system works is that Stephen's charter right to have a lawyer of his choice is so important that breaching his charter right is much, much more important than the fact that Stephen was intoxicated and charged with a DUI. So in this case, the charge was withdrawn and Stephen walked away as if nothing ever happened. Now, the takeaway here is this: the details matter. The evidence matters. With your DUI or impaired charges, it's critical to analyze every single moment, every single interaction with the police. And again, this starts, from your first encounter with the police all the way and up until the time you leave the police station. And at each step in interaction, there really may be an opportunity to have your charges withdrawn. If you want to have a discussion about your case, feel free to reach out to me. Click the button below to connect with me, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.